Okay, we're almost ready to meet the skeptical student. But before we get there, let's just remind ourselves where we left off in the last video. If Christianity was true, a well-lived life was not found primarily in philosophical contemplation and intellectual pursuits, but in a relationship with Jesus Christ, which could be available to anyone, anywhere, from any background. Now, to show us immediately how this works in real life, the author of the gospel, John, brings it down to earth by showing Jesus interacting with a group of students. Now, back in the days of Jesus, there were no universities, so if you wanted to be a student, you attached yourself to a teacher, to a philosopher. You know, we've heard of the famous ones like Plato and Socrates and Aristotle, but one of the philosophers in the New Testament, perhaps the edgiest and most avant-garde teacher of that time, was a guy named John the Baptist. Now, that's a different guy than the author John. John, who wrote the gospel, is John the Apostle. But John the Baptist, we were introduced to him in John chapter 1 right away. He was pretty popular, and let me just introduce you to him through some of the other pictures in the Bible. Matthew 3, one of the other gospels, describes him like this: in those days, John the Baptist came preaching in the wilderness of Judea, and this was his message: repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It says in verse 4, John wore a garment of camel's hair and a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. So he was definitely a little strange. He wasn't the most normal guy, but he did have some followers. Now, the gospel writer John describes it like this. In John 1, verse 6, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light. John wasn't the light, but he came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. And of course, John is talking about Jesus here. And John the Baptist, he went around telling people that there was this guy coming that was really the light, that was the real deal. Now, the author says that some of the students already believed what their teacher was saying about the coming Messiah, but a few of them were skeptical. A few of them weren't sure what to believe about what John the Baptist was saying about it. Maybe you feel a little bit skeptical as well. Well, Nathanael was one of these skeptical students until he had an encounter with Jesus Christ. Now, we read that encounter here in John chapter 1, starting at verse 43 and all the way down through 51. And what I want to do for right now, just to close up this video, is encourage you to maybe hit pause, maybe read that together in your group, talk about it for a little bit, and then talk a little bit about your own skepticism. Talk about, some of the things you've already read or some of your initial reactions if you've read through this booklet already. And then we're going to just stop right there. What I encourage you to do before you get to lesson 2 and the 3 videos for lesson 2 where we'll finish off this booklet, I encourage you to read John chapter 1 first of all, to read the entire chapter from the Bible. And then also, if you haven't, read the booklet, or maybe reread the booklet on the skeptical student, and be ready to come back next week and talk some more about it. But for right now, if you want to just hit pause, read this passage right here on the screen together, and talk about that before you finish up. Talk a little bit about your own skepticism if you feel like that you can relate to Nathanael. And we'll see you next week in the next video.